Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to session on Bhim Vega Merchant Payments Made Easy UPI Plugin Approach. Let's welcome our speakers, Mr. Vivek Manchanda, Incharge Alliances and Partnership NBSL, and Mr. Avishkar Ghogare, Senior Lead UPI Product NPCI.
First of all, thank you all for missing out on the PM session and being here. So we'll start with UPI plugin first. I'll give you a background on what is UPI plugin, what we are doing new in UPI plugin, and then we'll move to the Bhim Vega, which is the next new solution which our friends from our Bhim team have created, and especially Vivek will be leading it. So basically, my flow for the first section would be like, what is UPI plugin? What is the current framework? How are we looking at right now? Then we'll cover on why there is a need of innovation in the plugin, which we call internally at NPCI as plugin 2.0. Then we'll cover some of the challenges of merchant ecosystems and how are we solving those with UPI plugin 2.0. We'll cover what's in it for the stakeholders, how they benefit from the complete solution, and then we'll cover some of the basic feature mappings with the needs of the categories of the merchant ecosystem. Okay, so plugin is just to in the terms of some if I were to explain plugin to a 4-year-old, I would just say that imagine you are doing a digital payment right at the merchant checkout page. Okay, so I'm at the merchant final page. I have to choose the payment. आज मैं जैसे for example I go to the shop, I do it using my cash or my card. Imagine if you are on an online merchant, instead of migrating from one app, that is your merchant app, to the UPI app, you're doing it at the merchant checkout itself. Then, so how does it help? Okay, so basically it increases the success rate quite a bit. So the customers, what we have seen, have experienced 95% success rate if the customer is using merchant plugin versus the customer using the normal UPI plugin. Okay, the normal UPI app wala flow. The second thing is what we have seen is the UPI plugin has a good adoption in few of the larger merchants. Like for example, there is Swiggy, Zerodha Coin, especially in the investment segments. Then we have Annapurna as an entity, and then Misho. So these are some of the top entities which have been adopting the merchant plugin. Till date, we have seen around 1 million customers, and we are seeing some adoption in the upward movements. You can see a little drop recently. That is majoritarily because of the recent guidelines which we had received from the government on the online gaming front. But that is a normal temporary setback, and will start moving upwards again with the help of our team, Bhim team. Now we have already sorted the payments from the merchant checkout page. Why do you need an innovative solution? Okay, that's where we have compared. For this slide, what we have done is we have compared basically what is currently available using payment aggregator or a payment gateway integration, what is available in 1.0 plugin, and what will be there in plugin 2.0. So currently in the payment aggregator, payment gateway integrations which the merchant app have, number one, it is very cumbersome. It needs some technological involvement. It will not have the loyalty programs. It will not be a plug and play solution. You will have to do an integration every time with a new aggregator or a new gateway. The growth dashboards वगैरह is showcased, and as well as the user journey and discoverability is also there. User onboarding journey, etc. is there with few of the tie-ups which have been done by the respective entity. But some of the other plays, like for example, what about the UPI features? Like if tomorrow there is a new UPI feature coming in, whether that will be available on a plugin 1.0? Answer is no, because plugin 1.0 is simple. You have just integrated the device binding protocol of UPI. You have integrated the payment journey of the UPI. Within within UPI 2.0 and the Bhim plugin, we have introduced some of the new features. Okay, and some of the entities are already doing that. So what are the challenges currently faced by the merchant ecosystem? The higher drop-offs. Okay, so every time the merchant wants to perform the payment within seconds, they don't want to perform it more than 10 seconds. Okay, why? Because every second's delay will cause a decision making problem with the customer, that customer can drop off. There is a chance, a higher probability, the longer the transaction runs, the customer may drop off. There are the higher chances of technical issues being there, and that's where we are solving that by UPI plugin 2.0. Then you have fragmented integrations currently in place with the market. uh, what I mean by that is, basically, if I have a payment aggregator 1, I want to do an integration with payment aggregator 2, I cannot move very easily between 1 and 2. I'll have to develop a pipeline, etc., and do that completely. Whereas in case of plugin, you can have multiple PSPs, and by the virtue of magic which we have created in UPI, you can simply switch from one PSP to the another, okay, within the same SDK. Then the part is about the lengthy journeys. So currently, when you do a payment on a normal payment aggregator or a normal UPI plugin, what does it look like? So आज मैं I go to the payment gateway, I add my card details. So there are multiple clicks there. Then after that, I put my expiry date, I put my CVV, and then I choose to do the payment using an OTP. So the complete step, there are 3-4 steps, and then multiple touch points involved. Like the customer will have to tap the mobile multiple times. Whereas in plugin 1.0, you just go, your mobile number is prefetched by the virtue of SIM, your device banding is done, and then you just pay using UPI pin. Okay, so you are converting the 5-6 click journey necessarily to 2-3 clicks. Okay, with UPI plugin 2.0 and with few of the features we have launched this year, we can convert it and which we can ease it out much easier in a much easier flow. Like for example, if tomorrow we were to introduce biometric payments in plugin, okay, it will be like a checkout, simple one-click checkout page for me. Or even in case of UPI Reserve Pay, it will be a one-click checkout page for me. I have done the onboarding. I just give my biometric, or in case of UPI Reserve Pay, I can just do a one-click payment. Then on the loyalty and retention hooks, so currently the merchants have multiple loyalty programs, etc. But they are currently constricted to apply that on UPI, because the customer migrates to an UPI app. The merchant does not know कि उसका source account क्या है, how does the customer is paying, what are the other attributes of the payments being done, and that's where the cashbacks or the discounts are usually delayed in case of UPI. The plugin solves for that, because you are doing the transaction at the merchant page itself. You are solving for that problem for the merchant, and hence for the customer as well. The transaction visibility is also I have covered in the last point, and then the final one is delayed new feature rollout. Like I spoke about, if tomorrow we introduce a new feature, like for example, आज के डेट में auto pay है. For setting an auto pay from Country Delight app, you will have to go to a UPI phone pay app, set up the auto pay there, manage it there. Okay. Instead, I am required to have Country Delight app on my phone. I can have that auto pay set up, managed, and accessed on my Country Delight app itself. It is so seamless, and that's where the customer's ease, convenience, experience, as well as the merchant's new feature rollout. As NPC as a SDK provider, the entity just has to go and give a simple SDK update. The merchant does not have to do anything. That's how seamless it is. And that's where we are coming to the what's in it for the stakeholders. So on the merchant side, like we spoke, there are, like wrapping up some of the pointers, the higher success rate, there is a direct integration of loyalty. Then there is dispute management becomes easier, because you're purchasing from one page and not raising a dispute on another regarding the payments. You can do it on the same platform itself. On the PSP, on the payment gateways and the bank side, it's easier because it basically strengthens the smaller entities to do the bilateral partnerships with or the SDK integrations with the merchants. And then it also helps ease out the ecosystem, because there is a decentralized decentralized distribution of the transactions across the ecosystem rather than being heavily reliant on one or two or three service providers. You can go on a distributed model. Okay. On the user, we spoke about the experiences, we spoke about the checkout pages, journeys, and the standardized security protocol. This is something which is very important, which I have not covered yet. So now currently you don't know there is a payment gateway one. Okay, you don't know whether your data is secure with that entity or not. Whereas in case of merchant plugin or UPI plugin 2.0, your data and your transaction is completely secured by the UPI safety shield which we have created across all of our UPI products. Okay, that brings me to my last segment. What are the different features which we have created? Like you can see, we have created some of the categories: e-commerce, food, hyperlocal, then there are transit, there is OTT, entertainment, investments, and there are few of the features we have labeled. Okay, so there is something called as light plus auto top up. We have something auto pay, you are all aware of. The SBMD credit wala combination which we released yesterday, we launched yesterday as a UPI reserve pay. Then the RuPay credit card or credit line linkage. CL discoverability is something like, for example, if I as a banking entity am already providing the complete solution, embedded solution for that particular merchant, can I not sell my, or can I not give my NTB or existing to bank customers some direct feature discoverability? Like I have a pre-approved offer for the customer, I can give the pre-approved credit line to the customer directly on the plugin, on the go. Just I'll have to do a dedupe check, a simple PAN number and mobile number check, and basis that I can give the offer to the consumer. There is something called as EMI. So on UPI, we have completely changed how EMI works. Okay. आज के डेट में for EMI to work, the merchant needs to have an integration. The merchant needs to have a bilateral arrangement with the issuer. Okay. And thirdly, in case of offline merchants, the merchant needs to have what we call is a POS machine or an EDC machine. Okay, जहाँ पे the EMI conversion happens. Whereas in case of UPI, what we have done, on the payment checkout itself, the customer can choose for checking the EMI feasibility. And in fact, if you have time, please do go to our pavilion on the ground floor. We have some offers, amazing offers running on EMI. There is a speaker of Harman worth like 12-15K, where if you try out and do the payment using a credit line transaction or an EMI conversion on RuPay credit card, then you can get that particular speaker at bare minimum price of 5,000 rupees. Okay, the objective is for you to try out the EMI journey. Okay, so what happens is customer goes, scans the QR or does the payment. At the payment page, he decides whether the customer wants to do a one-time transaction or an EMI transaction. If the customer wants to check EMI real time, an API goes from the application to the issuer bank. Issuer bank gives the EMI plans. What is my 3-month EMI, 6-month EMI, 9-month EMI? The customer has a feasibility and option and flexibility to choose between all the all the EMIs. Once the customer chooses one of the EMI plans, okay, that's where the customer will enter the UPI pin, and the processing fees, etc., all are very transparent to the users. Once the customer enters the UPI pin, the merchant will get completely reimbursed for the funds, and the customer will get the EMI conversion done at the back end. Instead of doing it at the bill generation phase of the credit card or doing it after the transaction, the customer can do it within the transaction journey. And that will be also available on the plugin. Okay. Then we have something called as delegate payments, the UPI circle flow. So what happens in UPI circle is I can basically, in case of my merchant plugin, if I have a daughter, okay, tomorrow when she grows up, I wouldn't like her to have that direct control over her finances. I can just link her as a primary user, where I be as a secondary user on my UPI app, and she can be on her favorite food delivery platform or something like that. And then we have a feature which will be coming up soon on Beam plugin, which is scan and pay for the limited merchant basis. Like for example, today I have enabled plugin on, let's say, one of the food delivery apps, which is Swiggy. Okay, so Swiggy guy comes, I don't want to pay online. I want to pay at the time of delivery. Okay, any which way Swiggy guy carries a POS machine or a QR code. I do it using my PhonePe app or my Paytm app or my Bheem app or any other app. Okay. Instead of doing that, I can just open my Swiggy and scan it from the Swiggy app itself and pay, wherein my offer feasibility, my discounts, etc. are also taken care of. And that will be only limited to Swiggy merchant. A plugin will only be applicable to pay to the Swiggy delivery points, not to, like, we are not basically making the merchant apps as a normal UPI app. It will be only a limited scan and pay feature. And then the offer engine, which we spoke exhaustively about. So these are the these are the categories. There are multiple features which can be enabled by these categories. For your sake of understanding and for your sake of consumption, we have placed it here. And then I would like to invite Vivek, who will take you through the Bheem section of the plugin masterclass. Thank you all. Thank you. We'll take the questions at the end.
Thank you, Avishkar. And thank you all. Good afternoon. So I will be covering the Bheem Vega, which is the plugin that is from the house of NPCI. But basically just want you to understand why the plugin came about and what is the essence and the ethos of the plugin. Right? At the center of the plugin is the customer. Today, when a customer goes on to a Swiggy or a Zomato, the first thing that he is going there to do is to order food. Right? So he is going to be selecting a food item, a restaurant, then selecting his items, okay, putting them in his tray, and the last thing he wants to spend time on is to make that payment. Right? That should be intuitive. You cannot have a scenario wherein he has to then, it's a broken journey today. He then has to select his payment module, go onto a PSP, a TPAP, complete that transaction, wait for that circle to complete, right? And at times what will happen is, because you've entered the wrong password, it has to restart the journey. So you have to go back to the app and restart your entire journey, which is very frustrating. So what happens is, even if you have entered a wrong password yourself and you have done it on Swiggy, aap bologe Swiggy nahi chal raha hai, that app is not good, I'll go in Zomato and complete it. For Swiggy, it's loss of business, right? Also, on the merchant app, they don't know why the transaction has failed, right? They're still trying to figure out why there was a drop-off when the customer had already selected his tray. Right, so you'll have an SMS alert that will come to you saying that, complete your Swiggy payment right now and complete the transaction. Another problem that you face is, because of the broken journey, because you're moving out of the environments of the app, it's your data which is moving out from the app, okay, for the merchant, and data is the king, right? They're not making too many margins there. Data is the king for them. They're losing out on that customer data. It is going to the TPAP. It is going to the bank of the TPAP. And they're losing that entire data, on which there's a cross-sell which is going to happen, right? Some of the TPAPs do huge amounts of insurance. That insurance is not because they are a DSA, and it's not because, they have an insurance license. They're just using your data and pitching you a product, which you're going and then purchasing. For the merchant, another system, there is a systematic problem over there as well. There's a concentration risk that we talk about. The concentration risk is not the 3 or 4 players who control 92% of the market. That is one part, right? When there were 2 black swan events that happened. One of the largest banks in the country went under a moratorium. And when that happened, the entire merchant ecosystem, which was 82% of your market, went off the charts for a period of 2 days, right? You lose trust in the payment mechanism because it has gone off the charts, right? You also then had a TPAP, which went off the grid because there was an RBI regulation which came in, right? So there are black swan events which affect the entire ecosystem. The third part, which is more important to a merchant today, is, they have there was a process wherein they had wanted to become a TPAP themselves. And the reason for becoming a TPAP was they wanted to give a good customer experience, but they are not payment apps themselves. We spoke to one of the merchants, and the merchant said, my primary business is stockbroking. My primary business is not to get into payments. Payments has to be handled seamlessly, right? That is where the plugin comes into play, and that is what Vega brings on the table. So it's essentially, for the business, it improves the success rate. It is accurately track the reason of the drop-off. You will be able to tell where the customer drop-offs are happening. The integration timelines are very quick. As most would be aware, a TPAP integration takes about 6 months to a year, in some cases 2 years. A SDK integration, if you were to go ahead and do it, the SDK integration is about 2 weeks, right? In some cases, 2 days, if you can have the tech bandwidth allocated. There's 100% protection of customer data. It does not move out of your ecosystem. It remains in your ecosystem. So you're able to then engage with the customers a lot more, right? So today, for an example, we were talking about scan and pay. Why is scan and pay important for a CUG? If you're a Shoppers Stop customer and you have a First Citizen card that you use, today you can go onto the First Citizen app and complete an online transaction. But when you're at the store, you're going to be using a TPAP application to complete that transaction. If I give you that facility of a scan and pay, a CUG, within your First Citizen app, you can then scan at the store, and the store is able to engage with you a little more. They're able to offer you more products. They're able to offer you more services. For the customers, it is a seamless payment experience. There's assured data privacy, and you're also, the bigger advantage that you have is, see, as the NPCI Beam, we provide you a handle which is @UPI, which is a global roaming profile. You are able to access it not only on the Beam application, you will also be able to apply it on all applications that come onto the Beam platform. So if Swiggy, Zomato, Meesho are a seamless platform, when you go on to Meesho, after creating your ID, you can also make the payment on Zomato, you can also make the payment on Swiggy, which you cannot do with other apps. And that's the reason why the plugins didn't do too well, because every bank was trying to create their own handles, okay, and they were discoverable only on a particular app, right? We are also ecosystem builders, right? So we don't ask the merchant to change their PG or their bank. You continue to use your own PG, you continue to use your own bank. We work with those PGs, they encapsulate Bhim Vega within their platforms, and the customer is able to do the UPI transactions on their app. The other advantage is that, if there's any innovation that comes in with the NPCI plugin, we'll be the first to implement it, right? So when you have EMI on CC, you have the SBMD, you have the scan and pay, all of these features will be easily available and accessible to the customer, ready to be used on the first basis. Right? Like Avishkar mentioned, it's a 5-click process to complete a transaction on a TPAP today, and you're moving out of the environment of the merchant. This is just a 2-click environment wherein you'll enter your PIN and the transaction gets completed. For a customer who is coming in for the first time and has never used the merchant application, obviously there is a SIM binding and an account binding that can happen within the app of the merchant. You can enable your accounts, you can enable your credit line, you can enable your credit card. All of it will be visible like on a TPAP, right? So there's a one-time integration process that you'll have to go through. That entire process takes about 57 seconds. So you send the SMS and the binding and everything happens within the app. After that, it is a one-click transaction. You have 2 types of SDKs which are available. One is the headed SDK, the other is the headless SDK. The headed SDK is where the UI UX is already predefined by Bhim. It has already been approved by NPCI. You have the logo placements, the size of the logo is already predefined. So you can go ahead. You can also have a color palette that you can decide as per your app as a merchant, and then move ahead there. There are certain merchants who will want to control the UI UX. Because they're controlling the UI UX, we have a headless approach as well. And for the PGs, we have an approach wherein they can consume the APIs and make their own SDK, which they can then offer to the merchants that they're working with. I think we are only one player in the entire ecosystem who has a multi-bank approach for the SDK. So if you currently were to go and use an SDK of a bank, that SDK would be associated only with a particular bank. In our case, you can have multiple banks to do the settlement. So if one bank goes down, you have another option to basically go and complete the transaction. Okay, once registered, assuming that you went ahead and registered yourself on, say, a Meesho, right? And if you were to go on to Zomato for the first time, at that point in time, you'll have an auto fetch of an OTP which will happen, which will basically bind your app with your SIM. It'll happen in the background. The customer does not need to do anything. He'll just have to enter his PIN and the transaction gets completed. Okay, another big thing for the customer also. When you have a failure because you've entered a wrong password, or if you have your bank servers are down, you do not need to reinitiate the entire journey on the merchant app. You will go to the payments page. The merchant can define the rules of the game. They can define what you will be seeing on the app, how to reinitiate the transaction, complete the transaction. So that's a big plus, because you will then only just need to enter your PIN, or maybe if your bank is down, you can select the other bank, which is an option which is available over there. For the merchant, you have, like I said, the data available. You can then track exactly where the drop-offs are, how your success rates are, work on it. As Avishkar mentioned, 95% success rates on the SDK are something which is a given, right? Lower than that, even we start worrying what happened, and we are able to then address it. The UDIR and customer complaints are also resolved by Bheem. You do not need to have a separate UDIR and a customer resolution center for that. Like I said, the new features will be easily available. So you have UPI AutoPay, you have TPV, which is very important for investments, that is available over there. You have single block, multiple debit, SBMD, which was recently launched, in fact, in this GFF. You have the CC on EMI, which is available. You'll have the scan and pay as and when it becomes live. I think we're just expecting it about a couple of weeks from now. Scan and pay on CUG should be available. And I think the most important use case is the UPI Lite with auto top-up. Right, so you have multiple transactions that you may do on a transit platform. You may be traveling DMRC, you may be traveling buses in Bombay, and you have a 10 rupee payment that has to be made on a daily basis. Rather than debit your account on a daily basis, have a UPI Lite where you set up a limit of say 500, and auto top-up will happen whenever that limit goes below a set defined rule that you may have. We have a small AV that I like to show.
UPI has transformed the way payments are made in India. But merchants are not being able to get full control and visibility on the customer funnel, as the current payment process often involves redirecting customers from their app to a UPI app for completing the transaction. Bheem Vega is designed to address these challenges. It is a merchant plugin offered through acquiring banks that enables in-app UPI payments without redirection. With Bheem Vega integrated into the merchant's mobile application, the user can just sign up with their VPA as a one-time process and complete UPI payment for all future transactions within the same app. The SDK plugin makes integration straightforward, while transactions are handled by Bheem servers, ensuring speed and reliability even during peak times. For merchants, Vega provides greater control over the payment experience, and merchant has full visibility on the customer funnel. It reduces drop-offs and improves transaction success rates. It offers users a rolling profile, which can be used at all Vega-deployed merchant checkouts. That is, a customer signed up on e-commerce app need not register again while checking out on grocery app. Thanks to Bheem Vega. For customers, this means a seamless and secure checkout process. Payments can be made quickly without switching between apps, and the experience remains consistent wherever Vega is available. In summary, Bheem Vega simplifies UPI payments by allowing transactions to be completed directly within merchant apps. Last but not the least, being powered by Bheem and coming from the house of NPCI, it assures users a reliable platform for safe and secure transactions.
Thank you. Happy to address any questions. Yes, please.
Hello?
Yeah.
Do you have a Flutter plugin as well? Flutter and web plugin?
You don't have a web plugin as of now?
Flutter is?
No.
Flutter as well.
Flutter as well.
So we have a native and Android and
Yes,
iOS.
Android and iOS.
So we are working on that. We are just figuring out the security protocols. Once that is figured out, then maybe we can have it in future.
Yeah, anybody else? Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.